Get around in here.
Yeah, sure. So it's 12 noon, so I'll call the work session of the Warren County Commissioners from June 26th to order. The entire board is present. The meeting is being recorded. This time I'd ask if there's any public comment. Okay, hearing none. New items discussion. We have, first of all, memorandum of understanding between us and the Economic Opportunity Council to administer the whole home repair program. Presumably CDBG.
Actually, it's not.
But I know what the whole home repair program is, but what's up?
So basically what we did is, the way that the whole home repairs grant worked, there was some admin allotments that the EOC is taking. And so the way that we found, it's similar to how the Housing Trust Fund will work, where we thought it was beneficial for the amount of work I actually do and the time that I take to establish a fee for me to do that, to pay out of the grant. So there was no actual admin allotment to me specifically. And it's similar to the Housing Trust Fund, because that's what we do for them, is we pay them a project fee, about $750 for all of what they do. So this is a reverse to us for my time. And that goes with keeping a running list of people looking to get the program, interviewing them, reviewing their documents, qualifying them based on income. Yes, and that's exactly what I do for the Housing Trust Fund, in which I don't believe there's any salary compensation out of anyway. And so the way that we were able to talk with the EOC is we've established a $200 fee per applicant. And that'll encompass my actual labor time, any kind of fringe benefit for that time, and just the actual record keeping.
Okay. So the county is just going to withhold that based on the number of applications that are received?
We will actually receive the $200 payment from them, because the EOC actually houses the money. They have the money from that. They actually have all of that.
We are the grantee. We have sub-granted it to them, the whole amount, and then they're paying us back a portion.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And so all the invoices for the project will run through them. They're basically their own operating entity. It's a Warren County Commissioner grant. And so they will send us, we'll send them an invoice for all of that time and all those applicants, and then they will just cut us a check in reverse.
I guess that's okay. It's not normal. Normally we take the admin fee before referring it on to the entity, sub-grantee.
Yeah, and we did meet Bob Rabel, Jeannie Freilich, their grant writer, Lisa Haggard, and myself. We all met and discussed this, and this was the cleanest way to do it.
At this point.
At this point, right. And so this is only for 1 year, this MOU, and then the expectation of this grant will be a 3-year potential tranche, and so we'll reevaluate next year once we get through.
The program the money has to be spent by the end of 2025.
It needs to be obligated by the end of 24, and it needs to be expended by 26.
By the end of 26.
Correct. And so we are expecting, at this current time, with what I had the wait list from prior to my tenure here, all that money will be obligated by hopefully the end of this summer.
How much did we get again?
We got $330,000.
And you're doing a maximum of $25,000 per.
It's $50,000 max per project, but we're looking at about $16,000 per roof. And
Right. The problem is if you're only 25,000, then you have to do the prevailing wage. And so presumably it would be smart on the EOC's part, because it's state money, to keep it under 25.
I don't think any of the projects get over $25.
I think the one that they have for Bonnie mentioned, which is a huge range, and it was a pretty extensive project, it's pretty low, but it's not quite there yet. And on average, what we're seeing is they're sitting between 15 and 20, depending on.
Yeah. Are we doing any more CVG related roof projects?
Not this time, no. We just have our Housing Trust Fund, as we all know, operates the registered recorder's office. That is still running simultaneously. It's just that accrues over time rather than being a large amount at once. And so it makes it a little harder to dedicate those funds to a project. So as the money accrues, there's a vetting process in which we'll kind of delineate a whole home repairs project with a Housing Trust Fund project. And
That's the one we end up doing every year essentially, like, or it starts over every year.
yeah, yeah. essentially, it should be, by the end of the fiscal year, it should be empty. But
Mhm.
as we all know, with COVID and then supplies and then staffing changes, it kind of got put back and it just been building.
The housing trust fund, like full home care, you have to own them.
Yes, all of the qualifications, both income qualifications, owner occupancy, and the type of home, all kind of.
Except I saw the DCD roll back any rules. Now you don't have to do verification of income or even verification of who it is anymore.
It's called a demographic survey now.
Unverified.
Yeah,
demographic survey.
yeah, not offensive. I know. But that's
So
basically.
Danny, do you get to see each one of these applications?
Yes, so I handle all the admin part of that, so what the process is, I know this is gonna sound really redundant, and I get that, and we all get that, but it's just the easiest way. Basically, people will contact the EOC looking for a roof repair program, they then refer them to me. I talk to them, I take their initial intake, I bring them in for interview, do the actual application, we go over the documents, and then I send them back to the EOC. And then for the housing trust fund, they then send an invoice to me to pay.
So
So what does the EOC do then?
The EOC handles the entire project, so from Paul Strike, their inspector, they'll inspect the project, they will come up with the scope of the project, the bid document requirements, send it out to bid, open the bids, select the bids. You know, they do, it's quite a bit, it's a lot of work on his end. And which is how we were able to come to that $200 mark, because they're $750 for our housing trust. This seemed to be an appropriate amount for, if we were to break down to one project.
right, so who's prioritizing? You've got presumably gonna have a lot of applicants.
Yeah.
Is there a board that's kind of vetting it, or is that, are they making you the
Just
stop?
me.
Okay.
So literally, it's a first come, first serve. We talked lightly about doing a needs-based approach where we can look at, you know, it becomes a new yes, and it's a very hard call for anyone to make, to prioritize one person's need over someone else's. So it's a first come, first serve. This first tranche of home repairs, like I said, we had a waiting list, which was about 15 applicants, which is gonna take up majority of that money. And then it'll just be a continuous, as people come in, we'll get put on the list, and then once the assessment rolls out. People do automatically fall off sometimes from non-responses. I've had a few of those where they're not there anymore, or they're not able to produce their documentation to me. I have not come across anybody who's financially not qualifying, but that's because almost everybody who has come to us has been significantly below the income threshold, and not having any kind of riches harbored in an account anywhere. So, most of how the vetting process works is just first come, first serve, and then people fall off on their own based on those non-responses, but
Okay.
it is continuous.
Any other questions from Ms. Flasher? Very good, and we'll see
None
this.
here, thanks.
See this on the agenda. Meetings like that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, resolution 3249, this would be allocation of ARPA funds specifically for broadband project grants. So, Mr. Gallagher, do you want to introduce?
So the county's been working for some time, last couple of years, trying to assess and get a handle on some of the broadband needs in the county to determine where there are gaps. To that end, we've contracted with CTC Consulting, and we're relying on CTC to help us with that project. Have been working prior to that with the various providers, pretty closely. Providers have done a phenomenal job in working with us to map, identify, make some sense out of where their networks are, where their networks aren't. So where we're at right now in working with CTC and the providers is trying to come up with opportunities to fund some projects. Currently, right now, there is an open grant, the broadband infrastructure project or program that is open until August 9th. The county would like to participate in that by providing some grant match funds, which is what the resolution is in front of you currently. Those grant match funds would go to the grantees grant, and that would help kind of infuse some money to provide the grant. The grant is requiring at least a 25% minimum match to be awarded, and this is the county's opportunity to help co-fund that grant match. And these projects are very difficult because of the economics behind them. When you're looking at 7 to 8 houses per mile, so they're difficult to be built by providers because of that cost. So getting grant funds and in turn helping assist with that grant match is what this resolution is all about.
Okay. Very good. So to be clear, this 1.1 million, which by the way, I know that it says 1.1 million here and then not that below, so we should probably fix that. This is not allocated for any particular ISP at this point. We will be presumably receiving back information which Pam sent out to the ISPs
Correct.
last week, saying, hey, we want your proposals before you submit them, and then we will identify presumably the maximum number of houses that we could get for the lowest cost.
Correct. Trying to maximize that, even though the providers will be the grantee, we want to be able to look at those projects, look at the provider information, and be able to maximize that spend in that match so that we can support and provide that match to the project that is going to be able to get the most subscribers built, as part of the project.
So just big picture, your hope would be if we throw in 1 million or so,
Right.
we'll be drawing down maybe 8 million or something from the state.
That would probably be a realistic, if we have a provider that's able to provide a significant match on their own, which is, as I've been working on this project for some time, my philosophy has always been that the providers should be participating in the project with a match of their own. The county would like to be able to try to participate in a match with that is what this resolution is. And then we would try to pull in, other funds, which would be state, federal, and that would be the broadband authority in this case. So there would be funds coming in from 3 different areas. So that's, likely what we'll be looking at is a project that would be in the, $10 million, range, total project scope. That would be an estimate from my perspective.
But that's the hope of the one.
That would be the hope, and that's a sizable project. That would get us fairly far down the road.
But I just wanted to emphasize that we've been talking about using a sizable portion of the ARPA funds for broadband for years now. I know people are kind of wondering when is it going to happen. Well, this kind of thing is exactly the strategic allocation that we've been waiting for. If we throw in $1 million, we draw down 10 essentially.
Right.
Or something like that.
If the county were just to have spent these ARPA dollars on their own to retain a provider, through an RFP to build this on their own, to have that provider build this, $1 million doesn't get far. 10 million gets 10 times further, so, simple. That's really where this is at, is try to extend that spend as far as we can and waiting for a grant opportunity. And this grant opportunity, the broadband authority is there, closes on the 9th. It was extended by 30 days, so we have that opportunity. So we're waiting for providers to bring in some more information. And we're having our consultant, CTC, we've been working with to kind of vet some of those responses with us, and that's kind of where we're at. So we're hopeful that this match by the county helps bring that award in, that brings the extra dollars in that grant match over the top, so that it makes this very competitive grant. And we want to be able to, bring this in, and that county participation, is going to be big and be able to do that.
Very good. Any other questions from Mr. Gallagher? Hearing none, you'll see resolution 3249 on the Wednesday agenda. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Yep, thanks.
Any project updates from commissioners? Very good. Moving on to Wednesday's agenda. We have a public hearing. I believe that was on, is that on a variance?
No, that's on the relocation.
Oh, that's the location of the polling location. And then we would move on to the Warren Central polling location in the election board meeting.
Yes.
Okay. And that's the only item on that agenda. We'll be sending out a press release later today about it, and it's already been advertised. Let's see, then anything else on the election? Okay, so moving on to commissioners' meeting. We have the transit authority related items. We're going to be empty before long, that were deferred from the last meeting. And then data cloud solutions for tax assessment, SRO addendum with the school district, MOU with the EOC that we just talked about, and then the fund resolution. Is there anything missing from the agenda? I have one thing that I would like to propose adding. I believe it's the end of the year, our either natural gas or electric contract runs out. I know that fiscal is currently bidding whichever one it is out. And so whenever the market is ready, we ought to jump on it. Whether that's at this meeting or maybe we just keep postponing it. But I think we want to keep that open and have it on the agenda so that we can act whenever the market is favorable. And Commissioner Durbin, of course, that's your area of expertise, so I don't want to jump ahead of you on whatever you're planning, but I just suggest from a procedural standpoint that we ought to just have it on until it's settled.
Yes, I think that's good. I know natural gas prices right now are at an all-time low. So we're not seeing the forward curve much change in that weakness. So there might be an opportunity, given the lack of weather and high supply.
Yep, that's kind of what I was thinking. So why don't we go ahead and get that on?
Yeah.
I know that they are running pricing for us today, but since Mrs. Sackberg is not here, I'll just track down if they need to be ready. Either way, let's just keep it on the agenda.
I can just want to update the Woolpert Data Cloud Solutions is basically a software agreement that will allow the field assessors to put in information basically on a tablet, and then software will basically transfer that data from the tablet to the regular software that they have.
To the vision software.
Yeah.
This is our assessors, not visions.
Right.
Yeah, Woolpert is separate software that's going to be installed on the tablets, is what I understand.
Okay.
The school resource officer addendum, this was basically the original agreement that was signed back in 2019 was missing some edits that everyone has performed satisfactorily. So this is really just a housecleaning item in case the grant gets audited, just to show that we signed a contract that comports with how we perform.
Very good.
I've been asked to prepare necessary paperwork for some conveyances related to LAPC or some equipment. So I'm going to work with Pam, see if we can get that together in time for.
Why don't we go ahead and put it on the agenda just in case. So generally speaking, just to catch you all, because I'm not sure if you were copied on it, we have some air packs. There's only one fire department in the county that uses that style of air pack at EMA. And they have a trailer that we want, so we basically want to do a swap. They get a bunch of nice new air packs, we get a nice new trailer. So why don't we just get that on the agenda?
Yeah.
If it works out, we can go ahead and do it this week. If not, postpone it till next time. Anything else that needs to go on the agenda for Wednesday?
I'm working with, Ken Crosby represents the EOC in terms of the closing on 11 and 13 Madison, so I'm working on paperwork for there.
Anything more that needs to be voted on?
So, the, Attorney Crosby's, we can talk about it in executive session, there's no major concerns, it's just.
Yeah, the question more is, do we need something on the agenda?
I'm gonna try and get a hold of him, but he proposed an agreement of sale. I didn't feel we needed an agreement of sale because the Forfeiture Act allowed us to transfer this. However, Attorney Crosby, understandably not real familiar with the Forfeiture Act, and he's, on behalf of the EOC, he's requesting an agreement of sale. He presented some terms that I want the commissioners to be aware of, and maybe we could do 2 to 5 minutes on that before I send it back to him. But that could possibly go on the agenda as well, I say.
In the past, when we've gone to sell vehicles and such, I remember passing a resolution that just authorized one of our staff people to enter into an agreement related to the sale. Like, could we do that with this? Like, we just authorize you to sign on our behalf for Pam or something?
Or to negotiate terms.
Because, I mean, bottom line is, if we trade money, it's gonna be $1 or something, right?
Yeah, they're only proposing $1. I think,
Well, we'll slow down. I have to give them $1 because I got one. I'll give them $5. I want 10.
Just to close this thing out.
as long as somebody brings a peppercorn.
Tim Hortons gift card, I don't give a shit, I'll give them whatever they want.
Yeah. Well, I think Attorney Crosby's just trying to be diligent, thinking that there are these liens on the property, how are they gonna get resolved?
Well, he is an attorney.
And he's competent, he knows what he's doing, and I have to, we can talk here in a minute or so, and I can just explain what my proposed management of it is. So there could be a quote-unquote agreement of sale requested by Attorney Crosby to sign, along with, for example, the county might need to execute something where there were tax claims from 2014 through 2016 on those properties. So maybe a waiver of or exoneration of any claim for those tax years and the claims that we make for maintenance. Just, they want to be sure that when we give this, that there's not any, that they're getting as clear title as possible.
Understandably. So, I guess I will ask to put something on the agenda related to the properties
Yeah.
and their transfer, whether that ends up being an agreement or an authorization for someone like you to just sign on.
Yeah, I have proposed amended terms that I can share with the group.
Okay, very good. So we'll get that on the agenda. Is there anything else that needs to be on the agenda? At this time, I would ask for department updates, but they all left. I guess there will be none.
Well, the weather's starting to break, so.
Yeah, it's looking kind of nice outside. Any general discussion? There'll be no decisions made after executive session, so we'll go into executive session, but we will adjourn to executive session to discuss the property remains. So any public comment? Hearing none, we're adjourned. Thank you.